Over the past year, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has been aggressively working to fortify Guyana's international standing and strengthen its bilateral ties. Coming on the heels of a protracted elections, which resulted in negative publicity and threatened the country's democratic standing, the PPPC government was faced with the delicate task of restoring and rebuilding the world's view of Guyana. As such, over the past year, it has focused on the preservation of Guyana's sovereignty and territorial integrity, the promotion of trade and economic interests, enhancing the image of the country on the world stage, and improving diaspora engagement and involvement. Mere weeks after assuming office, Guyana welcomed former U.S. Secretary of State Mr. Michael Pompeo, who on behalf of the United States government wanted to enhance its relations with the country. Coming out of that visit, a Memorandum of Understanding for the Growth in the Americas initiative was signed.
This agreement will stimulate the enhancement of the business environment for U.S. private sector investment in Guyana, particularly in the fields of energy, both non-renewable and renewables, and infrastructure. The agreement will also pave the way for the U.S. private sector to expand their investment portfolio and partner with the Guyanese private sector.
During that signing, Mr. Pompeo had said the agreement demonstrates that the U.S. wants to work with Guyana's private sector to deliver quality services and products to its people.
The United States model is to build out on the best things of your country. We'll show up, we'll bring capital, we'll bring resources, we'll often bring technological capabilities that are much needed to develop resources, develop infrastructure for your country.
At that joint press conference, President Ali and the former U.S. Secretary of State also signed the Shipwrighter Agreement.
I am pleased to announce that Guyana and the U.S. will deepen cooperation in the area of security, with specific attention to maritime security and joint patrols, to interdict narcotics trafficking. This will also allow us to improve our technical and human capabilities in monitoring Guyana's exclusive economic zone.
On the regional front, Guyana and Suriname reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening and expanding bilateral cooperation in the areas of infrastructure, healthcare, investment, tourism, agriculture, anti-piracy, trade, and oil and gas. This commitment was reached following a visit by President of Suriname, His Excellency Chandrika Prasad Santokhi, in August. During that time, President Ali said the PPPC government was willing to work with its neighbor for the benefit of their peoples.
We recognize that our countries share similar challenges, circumstances, and opportunities at this moment. And it is very critical and important for us to work together to find common solutions, to collaborate, and to support each other in tackling the challenges, whilst at the same time confronting the opportunities that both countries and the people of both countries can benefit from.
Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Hugh Todd, said one of the areas of focus between the two countries will be the hydrocarbon sector and its spin-off industries.
We also will be looking at the oil and gas sector to see how we can do our collaborations, especially in terms of training. The President's already alluded to the fact that we'll be collaborating on the local content, which will provide much needed assistance to our private sector.
Following that initial engagement, President Ali traveled to Suriname, where an agreement was reached for the establishment of a strategic dialogue and cooperation platform to strengthen relations between the neighbors in tangible ways. In addition to the diplomatic linkages that were established, Guyana and Suriname moved one step further, announcing that a modern bridge will be constructed across the Corentyne River to allow for easy access between the two countries. President Ali said the construction of the Guyana to Suriname Bridge creates tremendous opportunities for both countries.
Once constructed, not if constructed, the bridge will serve as a permanent physical link between the people of Guyana and Suriname. But more importantly, that link to the rest of South America continent.
Citizens have welcomed this development, which they believe will enhance movement between the two states.
Well, that is an initiative that we can't wait. We're going to get more things going. You understand? More money going to come to our country, and people going to go over and come over as same day and come back as same day. And that is a good idea.
Cross country is good. We could travel, anybody could travel. You got to directly use boat. You know, transportation-wise better. If they have a bridge, that could do good. Because most of the people got fly, then they got use boat, then speedboat. It's a different thing with the transportation, the bridge, than the other transportation.
Aside from positioning Guyana on the international scene and strengthening bilateral ties, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been working to ensure Guyana's sovereignty is protected. After years of hard work, diplomacy and advocacy by Guyana, the International Court of Justice, ICJ, in December 2020 ruled that it has jurisdiction to hear the case concerning Venezuela's claims over Guyana's territory and validity of the 1899 arbitral award. The ICJ has given Guyana until March 8, 2022 for further submissions to be made in relation to litigation brought against Venezuela, while Venezuela has been given until March 8, 2023 for its counter-filing.
It is a defining moment in our history, and it's something that we want to put behind us. We've always stood firm by the 1899 arbitral award as complete and final, and we see Venezuela as the agitator in this matter, and we recognize that we have international friends and partners that support us, and we've committed to a multilateral approach in dealing with this.
The ministry also spearheaded efforts at the diplomatic level for the release of a 12-member Guyanese crew who were held captive in Venezuela in January 2021. The fishermen who were plying their trade along the Waini River in two groups of 6 on the Lady Naira and Seawolf vessels were apprehended by Venezuelan naval troops. Guyana's chairmanship of the Group of 77 and China and hosting of the virtual flagship event on climate change have significantly restored the country's credibility on the world stage. The Group of 77 at the United Nations is a coalition of 134 developing countries designed to promote its members' collective economic interests and create an enhanced joint negotiating capacity in the United Nations. Foreign Minister Todd said despite the constraints, Guyana has had a good tenure as a chairman.
We're able to regain a lot of what we would have lost in terms of our global image and standing, and we were able to achieve that when we took office in August.
A key campaign promise of the PPPC was a commitment to aggressively pursue the involvement of the diaspora in national development. Soon after taking office, the government organized and executed its first virtual diaspora conference. Minister Hugh Todd said this administration wants to ensure that Guyanese around the world are included in Guyana's development.
We are mindful of the lasting impact that the contributions of the diaspora can have on the development of Guyana. This understanding is at the heart of the effort of President Ali's administration to pursuing a structured approach to our interactions with Guyanese nationals around the world.
Foreign Secretary Mr. Robert Prasad said members of the diaspora have skill sets and resources that could be beneficial to Guyana. As such, the government wants to create an environment in which that engagement could take place.
It is well documented that the Guyanese diaspora are highly skilled, patriotic, and have a great desire to contribute. The Virtual Diaspora Conference concretizes the government's efforts to strengthen ties and harness the expertise, talent, and investment resources within the global diaspora. The conference also serves to inform the diaspora on the range of topics, including remigration, tourism, trade, and investment prospects, youth engagement opportunities, as well as philanthropy.
On the local front, the government has been working during the past year to improve and expand access to legal and judicial services and enhance and strengthen the legal framework. As part of its plans to improve access to justice, residents of Bartica, Region 7 are now beneficiaries of a magistrates' court. Other magistrates' courts are under construction at Port Kaituma and Mabaruma, Region 1, and Vigilance, Region 4.
In every society in which there is economic development, social progress, and prosperity, you have a judicial system that is functioning, that is efficient, that is considered to be impartial, and that enjoys the public confidence of that society. We can't get progress without that.
Acting Chancellor of the Judiciary, Justice Yonit Cummings Edwards, had said that the region would have its first resident magistrate, making it possible to have court hearings 5 days per week. Previously, court was held in the region just 3 days per week.
A court in a district really is the people's court. This court is your court, members of this community. We ask that you care it. We ask that you come to court to have your disputes resolved. Do not take justice in your own hands, and this court will make justice the measuring line. It will ensure that justice is served and that at the end of the day, you as members in this community will be satisfied. Not only that justice is served, but justice must appear also to have been served.
The government also commissioned 14 container courtrooms for virtual hearings at the Lusignan Prison, East Coast Demerara. The idea is to provide speedier trials for inmates while safeguarding their health during the COVID-19 pandemic. Similar courtrooms were constructed at the Temeri, New Amsterdam, and Georgetown prisons, while domestic violence interview rooms were set up at Leonora and Wills Magistrates Courts. The container courtrooms were devised to deal with the delay in the criminal hearings caused by the pandemic.
In what can be described as a historic and unique initiative, the executive and the judiciary have joined hands together in creating a completely new addition to the criminal justice system. This was done without any compromise to the hollow constitutional doctrine of separation of powers, which binds both institutions.
The Ministry of Legal Affairs has rolled out an aggressive legislative agenda to benefit Guyanese. Following up on its manifesto promise, a bill looking to remove jail time for possession of small amounts of marijuana has been sent to a special select committee of the National Assembly for fine-tuning.
We promised the people of this country during our campaign that we will reform the marijuana law, that we will remove from the law custodial sentences on small amount. The PPP promised that, and the PPP will deliver that to the people of this country.
The Special Select Committee comprises 3 government and 4 opposition members. In August 2021, the National Assembly also approved the adoption of Children Amendment Bill 2021, which includes greater protections for children. The passage of this bill would provide children with the necessary stability, nurture, and love they need to become productive citizens. Minister of Human Services and Social Security Dr. Vindhya Prasad, who laid the bill, said adoption is a legal and permanent procedure that transfers the rights and responsibilities of parenting to those who are willing to adopt.
It is well recognized globally and nationally that children benefit from stability of family. They are better motivated, they're nurtured, they're encouraged, and they're able to develop in a healthy and a happy manner. So when we think of adoption, it provides this to children who are considered adoptable and require that permanent home.
The National Assembly also passed the Registration of Births and Deaths Amendment Bill 2021. This amendment makes the process to acquire a birth certificate easier. Minister of Home Affairs Robeson Ben, who laid the bill, said a birth certificate is a critical representation of one's citizenship, and there are many instances where persons have faced challenges in acquiring this document.
Our efforts now in bringing the amendments to the registration of births and deaths relate to strengthening the measures by which persons can validly be given birth certificates, that we expand the architecture in respect of places where people could get documentation to prove that they were born as Guyanese citizens, that we can ensure that there is a track record, that there's a paper trail in respect of ensuring that we could go back up the ladder, up the line, to assure that documentation which is presented is valid, that we speed up the ability of persons to get birth certificates.
The government also passed the Law Reform Commission Amendment Bill 2020, which makes provision for more inclusivity on the Commission. In his contribution to the House, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Honorable Anil Nandlal said the bill will allow the Commission to be broader based and represented by important stakeholders in society. In addition to individuals with legal backgrounds, the Commission can now include representatives who have at least 10 years' experience in banking, industry, economics or commerce, social or natural sciences, law enforcement, and a representative from the National Tushaus Council.
This here is an example where we are voluntarily migrating and alienating executive power that we already have, complements of that size, and we are in a sense extending it to have an involvement and an engagement with those who are extrinsic to our executive government. And this exemplifies, Mr. Speaker, the type of difference in our philosophy and in our style of government.
On August 11, President Mohammed Irfan Ali administered the oath of office to the members of the Law Reform Commission. The Attorney General spoke of the significance of the establishment of this commission.
It is the first time that we are having in Guyana a Law Reform Commission. You would have heard me say repeatedly that we need to overhaul our entire legislative architecture. The Law Reform Commission has a very, very important role to play in Guyana's developmental trajectory.
And in a bid to enhance the delivery of justice and provide jobs, the Ministry of Legal Affairs also implemented a program to train law graduates from the University of Guyana to serve as prosecutors.
Currently, in the Magistrates Court, the prosecutorial arm of the state is in the hands of the Guyana Police Force, and all criminal offenses in the Magistrates Court are uniformly prosecuted by police officers. who are the recipient of very limited prosecutorial training. This has been the position since independence. In this program, we have decided to move away from that system and to pursue a new initiative. That is to say, to train persons who are the recipients of Bachelor's of Laws degree from the University of Guyana.
The first batch of 30 will begin training in September. The ministry has also secured support from the U.S. State Department for an 18-month project to strengthen the Guyana Elections Commission. The ministry intends to have wide-ranging reviews and reform of the country's electoral laws to ensure a functional democracy. Meanwhile, there is need for new and updated legislation in every sector as Guyana continues to develop at a rapid rate. Attorney General Nandalal says his ministry will continue to undertake a heavy legislative agenda this year and beyond.
Our major focus will be the creation of a modern legal infrastructure that will regulate these new and emerging sectors, while at the same time revamp our archaic laws to complete a new and modern legal framework for Guyana. So every conceivable area of economic activity will be targeted for legal reforms. An international consultant will be retained to draft a compendium of legislation for the oil and gas sector. In the housing and hospitality sector, we will have a whole new regime of legislation dealing with zoning, urban planning, condominiums, townhouses. In the health sector, we have identified approximately 25 pieces of legislation we will work on, including new Public Health Act, a new Mental Health Act, organ transplant legislation, a new Food and Drug Act, and many more. In the agri-sector, we will be enacting a food safety bill and a food security act and other pieces of legislation that will ready Guyana to export agricultural products.